it sounds so cliche, but like it really is a family. There are a lot of really important relationships. There's a lot of trust. We've all seen each other through a lot of stuff. I mean, we've been in business for 10 years and we have 3 people on our team who have been here for 7 years of it. So you can imagine how much they've seen the business change. They've seen Alex and I change. They personally have changed.
This is the Main Street Reimagined podcast, a show for people ready to turn visions into realities and ideas into businesses. Hey, I'm Luke Henry, and each week I lead conversations with Main Street dreamers who took the leap to launch a business, renovate a building, or start a movement. Their ideas, their mindsets, and their inspirations, as well as some of the highs and lows along the way. This is a place for dreamers, creators, developers, and entrepreneurs to learn, share, and be inspired to change your community through small business. Enjoy the show. Hey friends, this is Luke Henry, and this is the Main Street Reimagined podcast. Thanks so much for being with us today. I'm excited today to be on site, on location at Edgework Creative with my friends Alex and Lindsay Remley here in Columbus, Ohio. Hey guys.
Hey.
So they are joining me. So you can't see, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see us here. We're in Alex's office, but just a little ways behind me, there's a full, incredible shop. How many square feet?
27,000.
27,000 square feet. So it's like over half an acre shop back here that is metal fabrication and paint booths and all of this woodworking stuff. It's so super cool. I've had the privilege of touring it, and so we're going to talk about their business here, Edgework Creative, and then some things that they've learned along their journey, and it's going to be a fun conversation. So we're going to dig in here. So thanks again for being on with me, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So those who might be listening and have not heard of Edgework Creative, tell us a little bit about your business today and what all you do.
You want to start?
You go.
Pretty cut and dry. We're a custom fabrication shop. We build everything from furniture, millwork, cabinetry, metal fabrications from railings, doors. If you can dream it, we can probably build it.
Yeah.
As long as you can pay for it.
Yeah, I love, in construction and any associated trades, it's like people ask, like, can you do this? Like, hey, anything is possible. It's just a matter of if you're willing to write the check for it, right? Mm-hmm. So you can kind of you'll hear this dynamic, I think, through the conversation. I've got to know Alex and Lindsay really well. We're friends personally now, but Alex is like the operations guy. He like gets the work done, and Lindsay is the marketing one, and so she gets to make sure that they've got the great photos and the kind of some of the flowery language. So what would you add to Alex's description to describe what you guys do at Edgework?
Yeah, I think we just build cool things. I shared with someone recently, and it was the first time I'd said it, that like we say yes to projects. So we don't scare easily. We're definitely like a figure it out kind of group of people. Mm-hmm. And we've assembled and created a really talented team that likes to figure it out.
Yeah. And again, I mean, maybe you're hearing like, fabrication, furniture, like that does not do justice to what you guys do. You've got to stumble over to their Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn feeds and like see truly the kinds of stuff that these guys are building. Like it is so cool. Talk a little bit about the kinds of customers that you work with and what those projects entail.
Yeah, I mean, we work with a lot of architect and design firms, contractors, business owners, and even direct to customers. So like a homeowner or a small business owner who needs to get a conference table or whatever. So we're really flexible as far as like who our client is. But we also, I think more specifically like in industry, we do high-end residential. We do office furniture, fixtures. We do restaurant and hospitality. We do multifamily and amenity space, and lots of other things. Those seem to be like the big buckets of places where we find that we're doing a lot of our work.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I know when we toured recently, you had just done like a whole bunch of tables for a Condado, right? That was opening. So it was, literally everything. So you were building the bases, custom, the tops, painting all the funky stuff, all of that, right?
Yeah. The Condado is a brand we've done some work with, doing tabletops for them. I would say probably the simplest thing we do is tables.
Right. Yeah. And lots, all shapes and sizes, every kind of table, right?
Yeah. They don't get me all that excited anymore. Happy to do them.
Yeah.
Some of the other wild and crazy things that we do get me a little more excited. We do a decent amount of work for Rise Brands and Pins Mechanical. We're currently... or we have out there, we haven't shipped it yet, building what might be the world's biggest light bright, supposedly.
Okay.
So it's like things like that, it's like nobody else is doing that.
I hadn't heard about that project, but I saw the regular life-size light bright sitting out in your showroom. So that must have been the prototype, right?
Yeah. To give you a sense of how big it is, they are scaling the outlet on the wall and the cord for it. And the cord is made of a fire hose.
Wow.
So.
Okay. And what are the pegs?
The pegs
how big are they?
Like 3/4 or 1 inch acrylic rod.
Okay.
Yeah. Different colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's enormous. It sounds like they're submitting it for the Guinness Book of World Records. So it might actually be the world's biggest.
You get to be part of that project. So so
something.
Again, for those listening, it's just like, yes, wild and crazy projects all the way down to dining room tables and, everything in between. So interestingly, that the whole conversation around tables kind of parlays into two stories. One is our origin story. I met you guys about a year ago. We were in the process of furnishing our co-working space in downtown Marion, Connect Coworks, and needed some fun and funky tables, and stumbled across you guys on the internet and bought some of the high tables that you make, which for folks that don't know, those are...
They're like a trapezoid table.
Five-sided, right? Yeah.
It's four-sided.
Four-sided. And so trapezoid, thank you, is the correct geometric term. But they can be configured in all these different ways, and so they're cool. So we wanted some of those, and so we ordered them. And Lindsay said, "Why don't you come by and see our place?" And so I said, "Great, that sounds fun. I've never been inside of a furniture manufacturing place before, and so I visited and got to see the all of the things that I described, and it's super cool." And then we spent an hour talking about small business and the challenges of that, and family and family in business and kids around business and all of that. And then that led to us having dinner together as couples, and then hanging out as families, and the rest is history here. Yeah. So hard to believe that's all kind of happened within a year, but it's been a really fun journey with you all, and just started with the table.
Yeah.
And then my understanding is that the whole origin story for Edgework started with a table. So let's trace that back and tell folks the whole story of how this all started.
Yeah, we started the business because we built ourselves. I say we.
Right. The operations guy and the marketing
exactly.
one. Right?
The figurative we. Needed a dining table for our home, and I asked Alex to build one if I came up with a design or a inspiration for it, and he said sure, which I think sort of full circle is like we just say yes to things.
Right.
I think it's our nature, and he built us a table. There was no purpose or intention or anything behind it except that we were broke and we needed a table.
needed a
and
table.
so we built our own table. And as we started having like kids' birthday parties or friends over for a barbecue or hosting Christmas, people were like, I can't believe you built this table. People would like pay you and buy these things. And it was like a foreign idea to us. We hadn't thought about it. And, you know, over time, I can't even really remember how long it was, maybe 6 months, a year or something. People just kept saying it. And I was weeding in our backyard and just decided, you know what, I'm going to start an Instagram and see what comes of it. And we got an order like that day or something. So it just sort of started slowly as a way to make a little bit extra money when we didn't have any. And it just has grown and grown and grown. And next month, we're celebrating 10 years of business, which is crazy. And yeah, I always joke that we're accidental entrepreneurs. Like we didn't set out to start a business, but here we are. And I think that that rings true for a lot of small business owners.
Right.
You start doing something that you're excited about or interested in or talented at, or sometimes you're just interested in it and you figure out how to be talented at it. And that's sort of how we started, just sort of slow and steady.
Yeah. I mean, you say that, you know, but even as an outsider looking in, like 10 years, like doesn't seem that long for what you've built. I mean, I think it's super cool and it's impressive and hopefully inspirational to people out there that are thinking like, oh gosh, I have this thing. I have this thing that I do, this thing that I love, this thing that people have told me might make some money. I could turn it into a business, and you're living proof that that really can happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's kind of dig into that a little bit more in terms of just, you know, first of all, when did you take, you know, the real leap to, you know, say, okay, this seems like this could be a legitimate business? At what point would you say that leap happened?
When I was 9 months pregnant with our third child, which is probably not great timing, but that's the honest truth. I was like swollen feet and enormous and about to give birth. And
we worked out of our garage for about a year and a half, doing one off here, one off there. We would go to the farmers markets and take our cutting boards and our coasters and a little, you know, a couple small little tables or furniture pieces. Yeah, we did that for about a year and a half. And, you know, it got to the point, because I was also working a full-time job at the time, doing nights and weekends. It got to the point where we like, all right, we need to make a decision here. And that means, all right, we're going to really try to do this. And that means getting out of the garage, getting some help, upgrading tools, etc. Some friends of ours, another entrepreneur, she was considering moving her shop at the time. She has a small jewelry boutique, and asked us if we were interested in potentially sharing a space with her.
Okay.
And yeah, I guess really at that point we hadn't, at least I certainly had not made the decision that we were going to like do this. And Lindsay was pushing and pushing, and she's like, come on, let's go look at the space. Let's go look at the space. And you know, it's, I don't know, $400 or $500 a month in rent. I'm like, there's no way, right? We can't afford that. What are you even talking about?
Right.
And we ended up going to look at that space with them. And like, really, as soon as I saw the space, I was like, oh, okay, I could do that, that.
I could buy that piece of equipment.
Like, and that's like, I think when it clicked for me. That space didn't end up happening.
Okay.
It was pretty like, just the timing and everything was like it was like all these things had to come together really quickly. I don't remember exactly why, but it didn't end up happening. And like we're talking about like, all right, like how do we fund this and blah blah blah, and we had come up with one of our options was to do a Kickstarter campaign.
Okay.
Back in the heyday of Kickstarter. I assume it's still thriving.
Right.
But
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of some recently.
And during that, you know, couple of weeks where we're talking about this lease and trying to figure kind of everything out very rapidly, decided to do that we could do a Kickstarter campaign. And then when the lease didn't happen, we're like, okay, we can just kind of take a breath. really kind of plan this the right way, do it the right way. And so we took our time and planned a Kickstarter campaign and executed that, raised a little bit of money, which then propelled us to be able to find a space, we hired 2 people part-time, upgraded some tools, got into a lease on I think it was 2,000 square feet.
Okay.
Which again seemed like going from a 2-car garage, 400 square feet, 2-car garage. We're like, man, this is great. And then, we got in there pretty quickly and realized, all right, so wood shop, finish room, metal shop, showroom, break room, office, bathroom, storage. Okay, 2,000 square feet's not very much.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, we made it work. And we were there for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Before we started, we need more space because things were, stuff was just growing pretty quickly and getting bigger projects, more projects, and just kind of went from there.
Yeah, yeah. So when you did the Kickstarter campaign, you moved into this first real facility. That was when you quit your job and you went in. You would say that was the leap.
Like 6 months.
Yeah, about 6 months into that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we knew that was the trajectory.
Yeah.
And I was super fortunate. I was working for a small family-owned business in wholesale wine distribution, just doing outside sales, and they were extremely accommodating and flexible with me the last 6 or so months I worked there, and kind of let me go out on my own terms and when I was ready. And
so there's a lot there. I mean, I think first of all, being able to have that level of transparency and communication with an employer, and kudos to them for being supportive, but also kudos to you for saying like, hey, here's a trajectory I'd like to go on. I'd like to, honor you and help as much as I can to make a smooth transition. As an employer, I know we appreciate those conversations and always encourage that as much as possible. But also just, those 6 months were, I'm sure that was a super hectic time for your family. I mean, again, this is 8 or 9 years ago, so it's probably hard to remember, but I mean, to be working a full-time job, doing this full-time, trying to get this place set up, you're hiring employees for the first time, new baby.
Yeah, the number of images I have of the car seat baby carrier at the shop or whatever. I feel like our kids have grown up in a shop, and it's wild to get those Facebook memory pop-ups that just really punch you in the gut with memories, and it's just wild to think about and try and remember how we felt or how chaotic, or we didn't know what we didn't know, we were just moving forward. And now I look back and I say it all the time, like my parents must have thought we were crazy. But it's been wild.
Yeah.
I mean, at least.
Yeah. I mean, as you put yourself back, do you it kind of takes a little time, through the conversation like this, but, do you feel some of those emotions again? Like, was it excitement? Was it fear? Were you guys totally aligned on, hey, we're going to do this come hell or high water? Or was it, gosh, I hope we don't flop, I mean, what were some of those conversations?
I don't remember feeling scared. I remember feeling really motivated and excited, and not that it isn't now, but definitely a grinding time in our life. Right, but I would also say we're still in a grinding time of our life, maybe for different reasons or on a different scale. But I don't remember feeling scared. I remember feeling really motivated and
just ready,
enthusiastic. Yeah.
Well, I think that it does come to a point where you're doing this on the side, and it's a grind then too, and it's just hey, are we gonna jump in here or not, know? And then when you make that decision, I think it can be very freeing to say, okay, let's go, let's do it. So, again, I'm thinking about those people out there that are considering taking the leap, and they just need some inspiration, some motivation, and maybe some real talk about, hey, it's hard. It is really hard. It is a lot of work. This is not a 40-hour a week job. Probably not 50. Probably not 60. I mean, for a while, it's all consuming, sun up, sundown, 6-7 days a week. You're just trying to get it off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say is there's never a perfect time. You're never going to be ready. You're never going to have it all figured out. So just do it.
But no, it will be the hardest thing you ever do.
Yeah, it will be the hardest thing you ever do. I say all the time that I think running a business is harder than being a parent.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that for sure as well. Although there's a lot of parallels to parenting as well.
100%.
With the business as the child, and sometimes team members as children, having to kind of lead them.
Yeah. The skills are transferable for sure.
Yeah.
But it will be the hardest thing you ever do. And you will want to quit, and you will doubt yourself, and you will be scared and excited. You will feel every range of emotion so intensely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So yeah, thanks for walking us through kind of what that felt like, looked like as a family, and kind of going in. And it was a family affair. I mean, you mentioned, the kids being part of it, and I have some of those memories with our kids and businesses as well. And I think it's defined who you are as a family. And
100%.
Certainly, what do you think are some of the lessons that your kids have either learned directly or indirectly through growing up in a small business?
That would be really interesting to have your kids on a podcast.
Yeah,
and ask them this question.
I agree.
Maybe we've got dinner conversation for tonight.
Just the hard work, and what does hard work really look like? And,
Yeah.
What do you have to sacrifice sometimes to make it all work?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also big rewards, that come with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we live a pretty comfortable life, and we've been fortunate enough to take our kids to lots of places.
Mm-hmm.
Comes at a cost.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, as parents, it's our opportunity to have those conversations. And I know you guys have, and we've even had them together with you guys and our kids, to be talking about just, there are differences in the way that we live. There are trade-offs that come with a small business lifestyle. It's certainly not as glamorous as many on the outside might think.
Not even close.
But, these are, again, some of the conversations where we talk about, and I think it's important to have friendships with people that can relate to that level of commitment and sacrifice that you've made to get where you are today.
Yeah,
So,
I think it changes your whole life. And to your point about having relationships with other small business owners, as we have moved through this business, our circle has just become more and more people who have small businesses, because you just can't. It's sort of like trying to explain to someone what it will be like to be a parent. Until you've lived it and doing it, small business owners are some of the hardest working, risk takers, boundary pushers, and it's hard to spend your time that's so valuable and limited, and it just becomes so natural to spend it with other people who are living that same lifestyle and telling their stories and seeking advice or support or whatever.
yes. Yeah, absolutely. So continuing the deep dive in the story here. So you're in this 2,000 square foot place, and you're bumping elbows very quickly with your couple of team members that you brought on there, and you're building stuff. And at that point, you've moved on past coasters and cutting boards. But what kinds of projects are you doing at that stage in the game?
We did a handful of restaurants. There are tables, benches, other, just kind of wild architectural details. I remember, I think the first was the first restaurant project we did Watershed, or was it Veronica?
It was
Watershed, which we did, all their tabletops. And I mean, we were doing residential. I mean, we still do residential.
Yeah. We were doing a lot more just like free floating furniture. So like dining tables or coffee tables or a media credenza or like mirrors. We did a lot of mirrors for a while. Yeah. And then, we got our first commercial project, which was the Watershed
very
tables.
Cool. Yeah. And I mean, how were those types of opportunities coming in?
Word of mouth, referral.
Yeah, all referral.
Yeah. You didn't have outside sales at that point. At that stage, Lindsay, I mean, I know today you head up all the social media and all of that. Like, were you doing that in those days as well? What was your involvement? Yes.
I've been running it from the very beginning. I did have a little bit of help for maybe like a year or so, but I was still heavily involved. I just wasn't always the one pressing post.
Yeah. But today you are.
Yes, still am. It's still me behind every post on LinkedIn or every blog post or email newsletter. It's me.
Yeah. Which, again, I think there's a lot to be learned from that work that you do. I think you do a fantastic job. And if folks go to Edgework Creative social media and you see what I'm talking about, all these fantastic photos and everything that they do, be sure that you encourage Lindsay. You can comment on there like this is the
You're
bomb,
doing
Lindsay. Great job.
Keep going.
So anyway, so you moved past the 2,000 square foot place. What was the next jump? What was the next leap that you took to get
the next jump was we went in about 10,000 feet. Super cool old building, 32-foot high ceilings.
You would love it, Luke.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was
incredibly inefficient from a heating.
It was beautiful, but
details, yes.
Yeah.
We're in about 10,000 square feet. Grew in that space over about 5 years, and now we're in 27.
Yeah. So this was the next jump.
Yes.
So at that point, I mean, you went from 400 square feet in the garage, 2,000 square feet first place, then to 10,000, then to 27,000. So those are, I mean, big jumps. But, with the amount of stuff you've got to move and set up and outfit and everything, like you didn't want to have to do it very many times.
No.
I'm sure that was a painful process in and of itself, making those moves.
I don't think we have any plans of moving out of this place.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
We've kind of toyed with it a little bit, but I've toyed with it. And
We still
thought
have
better.
We have a lot of space still. We're very fortunate to be spread out and have a lot of extra space, but we have plenty of room to grow in this building.
Yeah. So speaking of growing, we're talking about growing your footprint with the business. Something we've talked about some before is just how you've had to grow as leaders. This is probably one of the most challenging parts of growing a business. Everyone's like, oh, you need sales and you need, equipment, and yes, you need all those things. But ultimately, I know we've talked, it's like, you've got to grow yourself. You've got to grow as a leader to be able to lead people and kind of continue to go to elevations that you've never been before. What has that journey looked like? What resources have you used to elevate your mindsets and education and leadership abilities?
I think one of the things that naturally happens in any business, especially when you're growing a small business, is, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and you got to learn the lesson, improve upon it, make a change, see it coming down the road sooner next time, all of those things. So I think that's one of the things that naturally happens as you're growing a business, is you're building all these schools, and building all these tools, and collecting all these experiences, and connecting with other small businesses who have been through it. I think having the strong community of small business owners is paramount to anyone.
Yeah.
I think also then, surrounding yourself with people that are maybe a little bit smarter than you, or know how to do something a little bit better than you, so you don't have to do it. Like, I mean, for the longest time, and I mean, to say most business owners can probably relate to this, is like, you do everything.
Right.
Not because you're good at it, because you have to.
Right, exactly.
And at some point, like, that becomes unsustainable and unfeasible, and the only way you can grow is by, finding people that are good at doing those things.
Yeah.
Hopefully better than you.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that is such a big part of it. And I think, Lindsay, what you said just made me think, like, every business owner is going to make mistakes. And I think that the difference between the companies that fail and those that continue to grow and succeed are what you do with those mistakes. You know, are they something that hurts you and, holds you back, or is it something that you can say, hey, we're going to learn from that. We're going to improve a process. We're going to hire a person. We're going to do something.
And maybe both of those things happen in the same mistake.
It could be a bit of a setback, but then, how are we going to grow through it and, use that as fuel or motivation to get to that next level?
Yeah, absolutely.
That definitely is the difference maker, it seems. So, we've talked, kind of in generalities, about some of the different challenges that come with growing a business and some of that. But anything that comes to mind that was like, really, when you first started out, like, what has become a challenge or been a challenge through the years that you didn't expect to be a challenge when you were starting out?
Well, I'm not sure, unless you're starting an HR business, that anybody gets into small business to deal with all the HR stuff. And not necessarily even like people behaving poorly, but just like, I don't know, I need an employee handbook. I don't know what an employee handbook looks like. We need a PTO policy, and we need, workers' comp, and all of these things that, like, no small business owner thinks about. And maybe you think about, like, oh, I need to do that, but, like, it just takes a lot of time and energy and, hiring and coaching and, letting people go. And all of those things are really hard because that's like a human thing. And we're a small business, so the team is very close and tight. And so I think anytime you have to deal with like HR related things, that's really, really hard. And turnover in team and stuff like that, which we've been very, very fortunate of having like little turnover, and we have great tenure with our team, and we're very, very proud of that. But we, last year had incredible, very intense, small amount of time, significant amount of turnover for a whole host of reasons. It wasn't one thing and 4 people. It was just 4 people all sort of in a very close amount of time for 4 different reasons. But it's really hard because as a small business owner, when there's a gap in the business, you do it.
Fill the gap.
Yep. So that's a recent, like, real hard struggle that I can think of.
I think just the people, like the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's the thing that I think didn't really think about or anticipate.
Yeah.
All the good stuff that comes with it. But there's some really hard things too.
Yeah. And just continuing to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
All those things that you mentioned, it's funny as we think back, we take it for granted now once we've developed HR policies and PTO policies and set up a payroll company and set up our BWC and all that. Like, it doesn't seem like as big a deal, but back then it was.
It's hard and it's stressful, and it's like one more thing you have to do.
Yeah. And we still, in our various businesses, are bumping up against things all the time that it's like, well, never dealt with this one before. And I guess we got to figure it out. You know, that's kind of just the mantra of the small business owner is, we'll figure it out. Yeah. We'll figure it out. Whatever it is,
one way or another,
we're gonna figure it out. So that's great. What about unexpected joys? Some things that maybe you didn't expect that you look back and you're like, man, that's really been a gratifying part of this business that you didn't necessarily expect?
I give the same answer. People.
Me too.
Yeah. Like we have a incredible team. I never thought that, it sounds so cliche, but like it really is a family. There are a lot of really important relationships. There's a lot of trust. We've all seen each other through a lot of stuff. I mean, we've been in business for 10 years and we have 3 people on our team who have been here for 7 years of it. So you can imagine how much they've seen the business change. They've seen Alex and I change. They personally have changed. And, like I get so excited when I hear that 4 guys are going on a motorcycle camping trip for the weekend that all work here. Cause I think, gosh, how wonderful it is to like love the people you work with.
Yeah.
And to know that, people are giving their best effort and doing their best with what they have and taking care of the people around them.
Yeah. Hands down, same thing. People.
Yeah.
The best part about it.
It is very humbling, isn't it? When you look around and you think like, gosh, like we're all working towards the same goal. And yes, we're taking a lot of risk. And yes, we're casting the vision, but a lot of people are putting their trust in us as the business leaders to make this all happen and make sure that they get paid every 2 weeks.
Man, that's a lot of pressure, man. That's a lot of pressure to put on somebody.
It is, isn't it? I mean, and yet here we are doing it. But those good things, when we look around and we have those, kind of aha realizations, that is what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah. And like some of our best friends in our entire life, we have met because of our business, like family friends and personal friends and new friends and, reconnected with old friends in a new way. And, I think it's a powerful experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we talked some about the kids element of, doing business together. What about the spousal joys and challenges with working together? Again, it's kind of been that way all along. And there's for sure been some highs and lows. I mean, do you mind sharing about some of those?
Well, I mean, I always say that the best part about working with my husband is that I trust him implicitly, and I know that he's making all of the best decisions for us, for our family, for the business. And some of the hard things, I think, is it's really, we're getting better, and I definitely think we go through waves where we do this better than other times, but like leaving work at work and trying to transition home is really hard on a good day, and then when you have a bad day, even harder. And I think what has generally been great about the hard days is we aren't typically always having hard days on the same days.
We definitely balance ourselves fairly well.
Yeah.
Or, maybe we'll both have a hard day. Like I think today is probably a pretty good example.
Yeah. Today's not been a great day.
This morning wasn't very great for you.
No.
But got through that, and my afternoon has not been great, with the exception of this.
Thank you.
But we definitely balance each other out pretty well, and bring each other up when we need to. Yeah.
I think I've heard that theme with other spouses that work together consistently, is that they can separate the work and the personal, or family members in general, brothers and sisters or parents and kids that work together. It's being able to kind of separate some of that. And then to the extent possible, I don't think there's anybody out there that's perfect at it, but to try to be intentional about leaving work at work.
I think the other thing too is people are like, oh my gosh, you work together and you live together. Like you never get a break from each other. And it's not as if we're like sitting at the same desk together all day either.
Right.
I mean, we'll have days where we're both here in the building all day and I talk to him and see him for 90 seconds, So we do very different things in the business. So by nature, our days are very different. And we might be under the same roof, but we're not necessarily like working hand in hand all day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think that you guys have a good relationship that you work at,
Yeah.
I mean, that is a foundational thing too, that, maybe some of the people that make that comment, they're, maybe not on a firm foundation relationally. And then to layer work on top of a weak foundation of relationship would be very challenging.
Yes.
And so, there still has to be that element,
for sure,
right? Where,
for sure.
we were just talking, you guys recently took a trip, just the two of you, and, doing those types of things, even though it was mostly work related.
And I was going to say, that's like a perfect example of like work and life integration. Our work took us out of town for 3 days, and we were out of town for 3 days. It took us away for 2 days, and then we just extended for 1 day, and we were out of town, and we should have been like whooping it up in the city, but we were just so tired. We stayed in our hotel room all day, never left the hotel. And so, yeah, but it was nice to just have like a quiet day, sitting around in our robes. We went down to the gym and walked on the treadmills together, and then we had coffee in bed and
laid around.
Just laid around, and then we went to dinner.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was nice, but yeah, it's nice to spend time, just the two of us, away from everything.
Yeah. I love that work and life integration.
And work made us so tired we couldn't even go out and have fun.
Yeah. Work-life balance as a family business is non-existent.
Yeah,
Right.
unrealistic.
It's integration for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seasonally, I mean, do you find yourself, kind of like looking at each other and saying like, hey, we've got to sprint here a little bit, and then we're going to, lay back, and then, sprint, and then we'll walk, and then we'll jog, then we'll, relax. And like, does it feel that way for you guys? Or, is it fairly steady? Or how do you manage that kind of work life, again, 3 kids, activities,
Yeah.
travel?
I think it feels like fairly steady for the most part and consistent. And then there's always like intense periods for any number of reasons, right?
Everything comes together all at once.
Yeah.
You don't plan that, but just ultimately it seems like that's how it works.
Yeah. When it rains, it pours, as they say, you know.
I think the summer's always a little slower, but
Work-wise.
not necessarily work-wise, just like I think we have less going on. Our kids go to camp for a little bit in the summer. So.
Well, and there's like no sports and there's no school and all of those other, like life just feels a little gentler.
Yeah. And finding those rhythms that work with your family, your business, your rhythms.
Right. And there's, I know people who have seasonal businesses who from May or April to October, November, it's like the most intense. And then the other time of the year that they are slower or have more time. And I know people who have opposite schedules, where they're like a teacher, but their spouse has their busy time in the summer and they have their slow time in the summer, and that presents its own set of challenges. And
Yeah, I would posit that most small businesses become family businesses in some way, shape, or form, even if both spouses are not involved. There's still always that overflow and support that's needed. And we've had a lot of podcast episodes, pretty much all of them actually, where we've talked about what it takes to make a successful small business, and it's almost always a supportive family.
yes.
Whether or not they're directly involved or not, that is so critical. I've seen that theme time after time.
Yeah.
So obviously you guys are in full agreement with that, and the circles that you run in with other small business owners, I imagine, have some of those same themes. So as we kind of wind things down here, I mean, it's been fun taking this journey back memory lane with you guys and hearing the whole story. What are I always like to ask, like I kind of asked this before, but some specific educational or inspirational resources that you've tapped into? Anything come to mind? A particular, book that changed your thinking, or podcast, or something that was really transformational?
I subscribe to James Clear's 321 newsletter. Simple email blast every week. It's amazing how broad his audience is. And every single week there's at least one thing in there that I'm like, man, he's inside my head.
Yeah, talking right
and I've
at
started
me.
like I hang them up around the shop.
I like that.
I pass them out to team, something that just resonates with me for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like listening. I've long loved the podcast How I Built This, hearing,
Yes.
and those aren't exactly small business owners, but typically a household name brand who's
Yes.
like built a multi-million or billions dollar business, but no business just starts like that, right? Like there's so many lessons, or the people that started those businesses had 5, 6, 7 failed businesses before they figured out the right one. And I think it's always just remarkable to hear stories about how people figured it out, or when everyone told them not to do something, they pushed forward anyways. I listened to a really good episode a couple weeks ago about American Giant, the sweatshirt brand.
Okay.
And their founder, his name is escaping me right now, but was just committed to making a high quality, all American made, like American fabrics and zippers and all of the things, and just the difficulty and challenges. And then, if it resonates as like someone doing American manufacturing, and he sells $130 sweatshirts or whatever, and he's like, that's just what it costs. So I like hearing stories about other business owners who have built things.
Yes.
All the different, they might be a makeup business, but so many of the lessons are transferable across whatever industry you are. And
Yeah, I love that. I love both those resources. So if folks don't know, James Clear wrote the book Atomic Habits, and which is fantastic. So many great lessons. And then, he just goes on to continue to add value through this weekly newsletter that extends beyond just habits. But there's definitely that component in there as well. So I love your, taking those snippets and sharing them and hanging them up around the office. So you can see some around
there's
here.
one
That's
there. There's
great,
one at the water cooler in our break room. Sometimes we just put them on a door that a lot of people walk through, just taped up. I mean, it's not like framed or anything, and change them out when a new one resonates, and just, I don't know.
Yeah, that's really good. And then How I Built This, that's our like family road trip time passer. So if we need like break from screens and, kind of like all come around a common thing to talk about and listen to, we'll listen to an episode and then we'll chat about it, So again, this is like how our kids grow up in small business and learn it, and we talk about what resonates with us and what applies. And, I think just every, I love that too, just as a resource for everyone, just because I think that as small business owners, we need that shot of inspiration sometimes, just because business is hard.
Yeah, resiliency, or like, okay, just got to keep going.
Just have to know that other people have done it. We can do it. We're going to overcome this challenge. Sometimes it seems insurmountable, but we'll figure it out as they did. So those are great resources. Thanks for sharing those. So we've mentioned how folks can kind of follow you, share all those once again, your website, or if you would, if they're looking for something unique and see something that resonates, how they might find you physically or whatever.
So our website is just edgeworkcreative.co. And on our website, we have so much content and photos of projects we've done and a wide range. We try and really showcase the breadth of our work. And and you can read blog posts about specific projects, deep dives. You can go through galleries of residential dining tables or whatnot, and you can email us or contact us through our website to get started on a project or even just to ask us a question. And then we're on almost all of the socials. We're on LinkedIn. We are on Facebook and Instagram, and we're also on Pinterest. And it's just Edgework Creative. We have a newsletter that you can subscribe to. I write it, so if you're lucky, you get one every other month. You're not going to get bombarded in your inbox. But we generally share, a deep dive into a project or a range of projects we've recently completed, or an interview with someone we find really interesting, all sorts of stuff. So, yeah.
Okay.
I think, and then, we're located at 71 in Hudson in the Clintonville campus area, right across the street from the historic Crew Stadium. And, we take appointments
make appointments.
Yeah. My brain's fried. It's the end of the day. But you can come and visit, and we'll give people a tour of the shop, and that's by appointment.
Yeah. If you know what you're looking for, you can see them from I-71
here
along Silver Drive.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I encourage folks, if you're in the market at all, check out their work. It's absolutely incredible, and you'll be absolutely happy that you did. So thank you again for sharing some of your stories, some of the highs and lows, and just having some real talk. Again, I hope that to our listeners, this has been educational, inspirational, and just gives you a little shot of encouragement if you're considering opening a business, you're challenged by the growth of your current business or where you're at, you're hitting a plateau. These are the things that happen to all of us. So take heart, continue to work forward, and continue to tune in. We hope to host some more conversations like this in coming weeks. Be sure to like and subscribe here, and we'll hopefully catch you the next time around. Thanks again. Thanks for listening to the Main Street Reimagined podcast. To learn more about Main Street Reimagined, Henry Development Group, or our work in downtown Marion, Ohio, please visit mainstreetreimagined.com. If you want to connect, or if you know someone who we need to interview, shoot us an email at info@mainstreetreimagined.com. Until next time, keep dreaming and don't be afraid to take the leap.